Hey there, friends. Welcome to the CFC Leadership Podcast, where we focus on everything campus ministry, college ministry, and young adult ministry related. Whether you're already working in one of these ministry areas, thinking about starting a ministry, or just have a burden for this age group, this podcast is meant just for you. I'm your host, Kyle Austin, and now it's time to join with us in today's conversation. Before we jump into the conversation on this episode, I want to give you a quick heads up about the upcoming College and Career Retreat on February 10th through the 11th. It'll be in Greenville, North Carolina, hosted at People's Baptist Church. It's going to be an exciting weekend where various young adults and college students will come together. There'll be main preaching sessions, relevant breakout sessions. We'll have small groups, God-infused time. We'll have some hot topic Q&A session, fun group activity and games, and of course, always delicious food, snacks, coffees, and all of that stuff. And for the leaders who come, we'll have some breakout sessions just for you, dealing with topics to help you to grow and maintain an effective ministry to college and career young adults. And so there'll be something for everyone. We're super excited about this weekend. It's right around the corner. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. You can get more info and register at cfcretreats.com. So let's jump into the topic for this episode, and I want to talk about this idea of patience pays off, or really implementing or practicing patience in college and career ministry. Now, as we talk about patience, that is a virtue, and for some of us, it's harder to practice than others, especially in our fast-paced click instant society. It's hard to exercise patience. It's going to take more than 2 days to receive the package? That's a long time. And so we understand patience can be hard to practice, but we understand biblically the Bible has a lot to say about patience. And as it does that, maybe you've heard this, don't pray for patience. I've heard that from various other people, and I often wondered, growing as a young Christian, why would you not pray for patience? I don't see where it says that in Scripture, but I understand why, because it's tribulations and trials in our lives that produce the patience. And so if you're praying for patience, in essence, you may be praying for God to allow trials and tribulations to come into your life. But I can say this, patience is absolutely necessary in ministry. It's absolutely necessary. We used to have a section just on this topic of exercising patience with college students. We've kind of merged it into another topic, but that's how often we experience the need to share patience, and how often we saw the need for it in college and career ministry. And what brought this, episode about was really just the numerous times this fall semester, my wife and myself have been reminded, okay, patience is a very important virtue to be effective in ministry, especially to college students and young adults, but also that if you will exercise that patience, it does pay off. And so what does it look like exercising patience on the ground, boots on the ground in everyday college and career ministry? Let me just give you some thoughts as we kind of run through this episode. What would be some examples of us needing to exercise patience? God has allowed me to connect with a lot of young men through our ministry, and I had two young men who we were trying to get together, and me and my wife are always working to build relationships, trying to connect with these students outside of the normal meeting time. And so I had lunch plans with a couple guys, or some things they wanted to talk about and go over, and I'm left the house. We already confirmed, and I'm driving to the place we're going to meet, and I get a text, sorry, it's not going to work out. This guy's, I just found out his work schedule, blah, blah, blah. Can we reschedule? And so I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, of course you feel a little frustration. You're on the way there. But I'll share with you later, I was able to reconnect, and God used that as a tremendous discipleship opportunity where maybe I could have written them off, got frustrated or whatever. Just this past week, Amanda was going to meet a young lady, and she got a text, and the young lady was going to be 30 minutes late. What was supposed to be 15 minutes late turned into 30, turned into 40. And she ended up meeting with her and, having a great time and all of that. Well, the young lady ended up coming to our meeting the next week and also bringing a friend. And maybe you get responses like this, I'll be there. and then they don't show up, whether you're meeting them in town, you're talking to students on campus, whatever the case may be. Maybe you send out a text message and you get no response, and you just get a little bit frustrated, right? Because they're not responding. I did that this past couple weeks ago and had sent it out 3 weeks prior. No response. All of a sudden, ding, phone goes off, and there's the response from the student saying, hey, we'll see you there at church tomorrow. And sure enough, came, brought a friend. But I'm just thinking 3 weeks to respond, that's kind of like frustrating, and, what's going on there? Well, Jesus Christ obviously provides us the supreme example of patience. We see his dealings with the 12 disciples and how patient he had to be with them to bring them along. They definitely did not get his teaching sometimes. They didn't get his methods. And if he didn't exercise patience with them, he would have left them behind a long time ago, because I would have. I'm like, look, guys, I'm done. I'm good. I've had enough of this. And also think about you and I. How often Jesus exercises patience with you and I when we don't get it, when we don't do what we're supposed to do, when we're hard-headed, when we don't follow through with our commitments, our promises that we've made, all these things. And I'm sure as you're listening to me, you're thinking about a young man, a young lady, multiple guys or girls who you're like, man, I've tried to exercise patience, but it's like pointless. So how far do you go? How much patience do you give them before you just have to say enough's enough? And we'll talk about that here in a moment. What would be some reasons we need to exercise patience? Well, obviously, patience shows the love of Jesus Christ to others. It shows love and real care to the students. And honestly, when you exercise patience, what I find is many times that speaks volumes to these young people. Maybe it's because back at home or somebody else has just given up on them, gotten frustrated with them, fussed at them, and you're not. And so you're exhibiting a love to them maybe they've not seen before. Patience builds stronger relationships. Think about that. It is in the relationships that you and I have the opportunity to disciple, to train, and to pour into the lives of these young people. We focus tremendously on the relational aspect of young adult ministry. Our mission is to reach, teach, connect, and impact students, and we major a big part of that on connecting. And maybe some people think, well, just connecting and building relationships, maybe that's a waste of time if I'm not sitting down at a table going through a discipleship book, or if I'm not, sharing the gospel with them. I understand both of those are very important, but building relationships goes so much further than that. It's more than just a one-time-a-week meeting, going through a discipleship book. It is just like Jesus with his disciples. It is living life with them, and it is pouring your life into their life that they may pour their life into someone else's life. And discipleship, as we talk about it, is not just a one-time-a-week meeting. Those are good. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But true discipleship is life on life. And so that is at all different times, different places, different ways, different experiences with people. And when you're dealing with people, there's always going to be somebody who forgets. There's going to be schedule conflicts. When you're looking at students, why would they need us to exercise patience? Man, they have busy schedules. Many of them, if they're working, they're doing school, they're doing athletics or something like that, their schedules are maxed out. Sometimes we think, oh, they're just in school, they've got all this free time. Well, many of our students are pursuing a degree. They're trying to work hard in their studies. They're trying to do social life as well. They're trying to do, their Christian life and all these different things. And so their schedules really pull them, class, work, group projects. And unfortunately, many times things get sprung on them by a professor that maybe they weren't anticipating when they talk to you on Monday. You're planning to meet with them Thursday or Friday, and Wednesday the professor springs some, major test or a quiz or some group project on them, and it just shifts up their plans. And so that's why they would need a little extra patience in their lives. Some of them are dependent upon buses to give them rides, other people, maybe they have no car. And so sometimes that causes issues with them being a little bit late. I'm a very punctual person. I like to be on time, if not, before, 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before. So it's hard for me, when somebody's constantly late. I think, there can be a certain point where you have to put a stop to certain things. And we'll talk about that in a minute. but they're dependent upon other people sometimes, and that can cause issues with the schedules. Maybe you see them in and out of church services, and you're just like, come on, man, where are you at? You were here this Sunday, you're gone the next, you're here this Sunday. We understand, especially, I know a lot of what we do primarily focuses on college students, but we still have a young adult ministry on the career side as well within our church. But a lot of the college students, they're away on weekends. Guess what? They may be trying a different church just to feel the temperature. Maybe a friend invited them to that. Unfortunately, a lot of times, the beginning of the fall semester, everybody has good intentions, good energy, and as school takes its course and social life and just life in general, some students will kind of begin to get a little flaky and get in and out. And, it's easy just to write them off and just say, whatever, they're not faithful. But, don't ever base your effectiveness on your attendance sheet or on a student's attendance to church. Because many times young people are going home on this weekend. They're going to go visit a friend that weekend. And it's not that they don't want to be there. It's that they've got other places they're at and so forth. So just be patient with that. Many times they're figuring out life, right? How to even manage a busy schedule. Maybe going from high school to college is a big change, a big transition. Maybe they got influence from others. Some, start strong, as I said, and will kind of finish up going through the semester a little bit weak, or they need some encouragement. I've heard this so many times, I forgot. Where were you at? I was there. I forgot. I forgot to text you. I forgot the meeting. I forgot we had this event on Thursday night, and you're just like, whatever, grow up. Be responsible is what you want to say, and there's a time and place to communicate with them about responsibility and about make sure you're scheduling things. You're being responsible by showing up. If you're not, you're calling or making sure somebody's filling in your spot. But can I say this? Over our years of doing young adult college ministry, some of our biggest forgot people become some of the most faithful servants. And it's kind of like, how did that happen? But understanding, I think students understanding they're going from a senior in high school, which is young. There can be some immaturity. They're transitioning into this young adult. They're trying to figure things out. Some of them come out of high school. They're mature. They've got it figured out. They're there. They're punctual, everything. But some of them do not. And so what I'm trying to say is students need for you and I to exercise patience because of just the way their lives are, especially with school, but also because of what patience can say to them, and also to help us to build a deeper relationship with them, which is vital. Because as you and I build those deeper relationships with them, it connects us with them in order that we can pour into their lives, we can speak into their lives, we can disciple them in a much deeper way than just on the surface. And so what would it look like for you and I to exercise patience, with young people? We don't know it all by any means, but we are learning, and we have been reminded so much this semester, especially coming off all the restrictions with COVID, everything being locked down. And this year there's just students, there's a lot going on. Almost pretty much everything's back to normal. And we have been tested with our patience. And we've been reminded. I even laughed with my wife. I said, don't you hate that page is in our training manual about you and I exercising patience? And she just, laughed back and crying emoji. And because we understand that we need to do that. But sometimes you and I need to be reminded that we need to exercise patience. Sometimes we need to be reminded of what that looks like. We need to be reminded of the student and all they have going on. And then we just need to remind ourselves, okay, patience is a big element of ministry. Why? Because we're dealing with people. So as we're thinking about exercising patience, can I say this? There is a big difference between patience given and also then disrespect. What I mean by that, we're not going to be used. We are going to exercise patience, but you have to know when it's time to say, okay, that's enough. I'm going to either move on, or I'm just going to, let you do your thing. Patience, can run out, I guess you could say. It's not supposed to. But what I mean by that, when I say it can run out, there just has to be a time when you say, okay, I'm going to divvy my time up somewhere else. You and I only have X amount of time. And whether you have 2 young adults or you have 20 or you have 50 or whatever you have in your group, you only have the amount of time you have in your life. And then you also have all your other responsibilities. So there's very limited time that you can have to give to ministry and to the young adults and college students. So you want to make sure you are being very efficient. Now, we are to exercise patience, and sometimes that patience, you're going to feel like it's time wasted. But as I tried to remind us, remember, when we're exercising patience, we're actually speaking into their lives. It can actually build relationships. So don't always look at it as wasted time, but you have to know when to say, okay, this is enough. You say, how do you know when that is? You just know, right? Let the Spirit lead you. Trust your gut, so to say, because I'm not going to facilitate laziness. I've got other things to do, but I understand when somebody says, I forgot, or, it's the second forgot, or it's the cancel plans at the last minute. And I'm just like, man, you're just not faithful. They're in and out of church. And you're like, where are you at? And you exercise that patience and you see what God begins to do on the back end of that. So in this ministry, try and give the benefit of the doubt. When in doubt, shy on the side of patience. But can I say this? And if you don't hear anything else on this episode, don't give up on them. Do not give up on them. You may get frustrated. Your patience may run thin, but do not give up on them. Continue to pray for them, continue to guide, continue to be there for them within reason. Let them know. There's times when you can let them know, hey, this is not cool. You've canceled the last 2 times. I've got things I want to be here for you. I think it's okay to communicate that, to help them to see it's not just their time. They also are a steward of your time. If there's a meeting or if there's an event or activity or whatever it is. And maybe when you see them, rather than saying, where have you been? Ask them, how have you been? Because many times when we see somebody maybe that's missed Bible study for a couple weeks, or they've missed church service for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, first thing they say is, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Well, I had this and this," and I'm like, whoa, that's cool, but how are you? And they're like, huh? What? Well, yeah, this is not, I want to know where you're at, but that's not the first thing I'm looking for, because in my patience, I want to know how you've been. And when I ask you how you've been and I'm interested in how you've been, that will kind of come out and I'll pick up on that. Yes, we want to hold them accountable. I'm not saying just let them come and go and there's no accountability, but exercising patience is important in order for us not to give up on them. And so try not to take it personally either. Whenever maybe they cancel, whenever they're not there, a lot of times we take it personal. We feel discouraged. And I think kind of what happens is because we take it personal, we become discouraged. We begin to feel like we're not effective in this ministry. And then we'll begin to maybe feel like we're not a good fit. Maybe this ministry isn't for us just because they're kind of in and out and all these different things. Don't allow it to affect you personally. Say, well, how do you do that? I don't know. I'm telling you to try not to take it personally. I have to work through that. But what I'm saying is never base your effectiveness on your attendance sheet and try not to let it affect you personally. Remember, you and I are responsible to do ministry. We're responsible to fulfill our calling. If you're called to young adult ministry, college ministry, then just do what God has called you to do and leave the results up to Him. You cannot force a student to do anything. I cannot force a student or a young adult to do anything, but I can do what I'm called to do, what I'm required to do. I can exercise the patience and guide them along. And as we think about it, real discipleship is messy and it requires patience. It requires a lot of patience. And so as you think about some of those examples I gave you earlier, I said I had 2 young men that canceled on me at the last minute, and then trying to reschedule, it was even a little flimsy, and I was like, man, do I even need to even try to get with these guys? And then we finally rescheduled. They were a little bit late coming to lunch for that meeting. But can I say this? As we sat there and, we went through the lunch, 2.5 hours later, some major life questions had been shared and discipleship was happening. I could have given up on those guys after they canceled on me. But I also know their schedules are maxed out, and I'm trying to be, and it's not like I'm maxed out, like poor pitiful me, maxed out like, they don't have anything to, they're literally a part of a lot that's going on, and their schedules are just that busy, plus work, trying to work their way through college. And so I could have given up on them, but that would have never brought about that opportunity for this discipleship to happen. And also it spoke volumes to them that I would be willing to still meet, and they were so apologetic, blah, blah, blah. And this is just one story out of many. And I mentioned the young lady with Amanda here recently, how she went a great meeting. She began to talk, got opportunity to witness, all of these things. And she, could have canceled and said, okay, we'll just do it later, whatever. And we've had other stuff throughout the semester that's like that, with students kind of coming in and out, maybe bouncing in and out of Bible study a few different times. But we've just been reminded, and I wanted to take an episode to remind ourselves how vitally important patience is. One, because Jesus has been so patient with you and I. And as we think about that, don't give up on the students God has brought your way. Don't give up on the young adults that God has brought your way. There may be nothing more than you can do than pray for them, but that is the most you can do. Put their name on a prayer sheet, a prayer journal. If they're bouncing in and out, if they've flaked on you, if they're driving you nuts, if they're being frustrating, don't give up on them, because Jesus never gave up on you. And can I say this? It helps you and I. We are in that messy stage of them becoming a teenager into a young adult, and there's a lot of messy part of that. But if we walk side by side and help them to understand responsibility, understand punctuality, understand how that will help with their career, their job, and all of these kind of things. And when they mess up, or maybe they make a bad decision, they make a mistake, walking side by side with them through that. Not ridiculing them, not judging them for the mistake, but being there with them and saying, hey, I understand, yeah, that was a mess up, but hey, let's pick ourselves up, let's move forward. Why? Because we're exercising patience with them. So learning how to exercise patience can be the difference between loving this ministry of college and career ministry and being effective in it versus becoming frustrated and losing interest in this ministry. If you're struggling with patience, then you're very quickly probably going to get frustrated with this ministry and say, okay, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to go find something else to do, whether God's called you or not. But if you can understand to exercise patience, I think it'll help you tremendously with ministry as a whole, because it's a needed element in ministry to no matter what age group you are. But if you can learn to exercise patience, it'll help you to love this ministry a little bit more. You will see the benefits from it. As you exercise that patience, you'll see the fruit from it. And just like I said, many of those students that were I forgot, or the mess ups, or the ones we thought, man, they are gone, they're not dependable, they're a flake, whatever. So many of them came out through the transition, through the learning, through the discipleship to be some of the most effective, greatest, faithful Christians and servants that we know, even now that they've graduated, wherever they're at in their career, their church, and so forth. And many of them were, we would label them I forgot students. And so patience is a needed element in this ministries, and sometimes we just needed to be reminded of that in order to keep extending that patience. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If this podcast has been helpful to you, please share it with a friend or subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can connect with Collegians for Christ online for more information and resources at cfccampusministry.com.